Hello, you're listening to Shoot the Hostage. My name's Sarah, and together with my partner Dan, we are a movie podcast where we talk about 8 different films per season based around a specific theme. Now, if you're hearing my voice, that means it's my choice of theme this season. But before we get stuck in, I do want to mention we get quite spoilery, so please bear that in mind. We don't want to ruin the film for you, so if you haven't seen it, maybe go away and then come back. If you like what you hear and you would like to help us out, there are a number of ways you can do that. The absolute easiest one is to just recommend us to a friend. If you want to go the extra mile, a 5-star review on Spotify would be hugely appreciated. A review on your podcast player of choice would also be hugely helpful. And if you really, really want to help us, we've got a Patreon, which is £3 a month, and you get access to a ton of extra content in the form of reviews of new cinema releases, new streaming releases. You get to see the lineup of the season ahead of time, and we do a wrap show at the end of every season. But all of that aside, I just want to say thank you for listening, and let's get stuck in.
Okay, we're back for another episode in our coming of age season.
In my coming of age season.
Yes, in your coming of age season.
Don't you dare try and lay claim to this.
All right, I won't. I'll lay claim to the next one, which I haven't sorted yet, actually.
You should probably do that.
I should probably do that, considering we've nearly finished this one.
Yeah, quick.
It's the penultimate episode.
It is.
We've got one more. That's what penultimate means.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor Dan.
I've got my glasses on.
That's true,
I am Professor Dan.
You are 25% smarter than you were before you put the specs on.
Yeah.
That's how they work.
That's definitely how glasses work,
yeah. This week, we're doing... I was going to say we're doing another grim, sort of bleak movie.
Oh, you were going to say that because we are.
Well, half of it is joyful.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie of two halves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has been quite a hard-going lineup this season, I realise.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't intend for it to be so punishing. But this was a first-time watch for you, wasn't it?
It was a first-time watch for me, and it wasn't for you.
No, I've seen this a bunch.
A bunch?
A bunch of times.
A handful or a bunch? What's the difference?
A bunch could be... Well, a bunch is generally used to refer to flowers or bananas.
Yeah, so there are 5 bananas on a bunch of bananas.
Are there? Is a bunch of bananas exactly 5?
Yeah.
You're wearing glasses, so I trust you.
There's 25% more chance that that's correct.
At least 5 times. I really enjoy this movie. For reasons I will get into. But first, I'm curious as to why you put off watching this.
That's a fair question. It's not one that sort of fell through the cracks. I was aware of it. It felt like it was kind of a big deal in this country.
I think it was, yeah. It won some awards.
Yeah. It came out in 2006. I generally try to avoid drama, and I definitely try to avoid British drama.
Do you?
Yeah.
What is it about drama specifically and the subset of British drama that you don't get on with?
It's tricky. I think when I sit down and I commit to watching them, often I will probably enjoy them, or if there's a good one or whatever. But I'm less likely to take a chance on a drama because I'm much more attracted to if there's a spaceship that's going to shoot at another spaceship,
or an explosion.
So I guess I'm more likely to take a chance on something like that, like a blockbuster, if you like, or something sci-fi. And specifically British drama, I find it all a little bit, sometimes a bit too real. Like,
yeah,
I recognise, and it's true with this film, like I grew up obviously in England, not in the north where this is set, but there's certain things that you recognise, and it just makes it that more real as an experience.
So you prefer your cinema to be pure escapism?
Yeah, I guess so, but like I don't mind a social message or a lesson or like a good character arc. Like I do like that stuff. I don't know. I have to be sort of a bit removed from it, but it has to connect with me in other ways. I don't know. It's weird. I'm a hypocrite as well, like, because I'll watch something else and it'll be a drama. I'll be like, I love that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Like Moonlight.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
In very recent memory.
Exactly. I don't know. Just all a bit grey, a bit grim, a bit English, a bit recognisable. Like sort of people that are speaking language that you recognise, and
well, somewhat.
Well, yeah. I was going to request to put the subtitles on this, but
did you?
Yeah, I did at one point. I watched it again with the commentary, so
I'm amazed I've not slipped back into pure northern accent for this.
Right, love.
Oh, don't you dare! Hey up, Chuck. Put one in Thor. Were you born in a barn?
I love that one. That's my favourite northernism, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. That just means, why haven't you closed the door?
Yeah. Put one in Thor. Yeah, just shut the door.
I can't believe there's a phrase specifically for that thing. I wish there was a phrase specifically for everything that you can think of.
There is mostly.
I suppose so.
Yeah. A phrase that was commonly uttered in my household growing up was my dad saying that it looked like Blackpool bloody illuminations near. Big lights are on in every room.
You've left the light on.
Yeah.
You do like to leave lights on.
I do. It didn't work. All of that bluff and bluster didn't even work.
You probably are still protesting now. That's what it's all about. You'll leave a light on. You're like, fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, it's just oppositional defiance.
Every time. You think, oh, I'm going to switch that off, and your dad pops in. You go, fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm going to rebel.
Yeah.
Because
at 42, I'm so rebellious.
But we're always still that child.
Well,
in many
I guess
ways.
so. Speaking of children, coming of age.
Yeah.
There we go. So, did you know roughly what This Is England was about?
I suppose not really.
Okay.
I probably I definitely, as I was saying earlier, I definitely avoided it. I feel like I probably would have gotten to it at some point because of mainly probably because of Joe Gilgun.
Yes.
Loved him in Misfits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that show had one of the best first seasons ever, and then in sort of diminishing returns after that. But the characters were always interesting to watch throughout, I thought. And when he was cast as Cassidy in Preacher, I lost my mind a bit. And he was great in that role. But there's a bunch of his stuff that I haven't seen.
He's done some really odd roles. He was in that Luc Besson, who we don't like to talk about, that Luc Besson movie Lockout.
Oh, was he?
That definitely did not infringe John Carpenter's copyright.
No, he definitely didn't do anything about it either, did he?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
So yeah, he's had some peculiar roles, but he's a funny man, very funny man.
Yeah, he seems like an unusual character.
Yeah,
a funny guy.
He's an artist as well.
Proper drawing and stuff.
Yeah,
like drawing. I'm not an artist.
No, a piss artist, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides him in the cast, who've we got? It's mostly unknowns, isn't it?
Unknowns probably at that point, I would say.
Yeah.
Because Meadows is a bit of a, let's cast these characters to fit the characters that I want sort of thing.
Well, he's very much into that whole naturalistic feel.
Yeah.
He wants realism. So from my understanding, a lot of the dialogue is sort of open for improvisation and, whatnot. And he does sort of cast people almost off the street. But was Stephen Graham known before this?
I think a lot of the people had been working as actors, like going to auditions or doing plays and things like that.
Yeah.
Or going to acting college. So I'm sure he was about known to some people, but I probably wasn't aware of Stephen Graham in 2006. But everyone sort of went on to do different things in their own directions. We already mentioned Gilgun, who's had quite a successful career. And he's done that show Brassic, which I haven't seen. But my mum tells me it's brilliant.
Yeah,
so I must get round to it.
That's won multiple comedy awards, I believe.
Yeah. Obviously, Stephen Graham is in things like The Irishman, and still doing a lot of British drama stuff as well.
Yeah, he did a mini series with Shane Meadows a few years ago called The Virtues. that I'm quite keen to see.
You mentioned that the other day.
Yeah.
We were going to try and see if that was on streaming anywhere. We'll give that a go, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that. He was in that COVID movie with Jodie Comer.
Oh, yeah, he was in that, wasn't he? Yeah.
And they were both fantastic in that.
That was another uplifting story, wasn't it? but yeah, important and very real.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think the cast in this is excellent, and there's people, Perry, is it Perry Benson,
Maggie,
who I know from Love, Honor and Obey, primarily, and I nearly put that on as my Monday movie the other night. Maybe that'll go on next week. And Thomas Turgoose, I don't think he was an actor, was he?
No.
So he was kind of just this ordinary kid gets put with this group of people, and it's like you say, it's all very naturalistic dialogue, so he had to fit in with that group of people, and it seems like the relationship that they had in the movie, where sort of Gilgun pulled him in and they all sort of had a bit of a matey, laughy, jokey time in the first half, probably reflected like real life to a degree. And I know Meadows wants to create this kind of realistic environment via the dialogue and stuff, but I listened to a podcast with Vicky McClure and Gilgun, and I'm partway through one with Andrew Shim, who played Milky.
Yeah.
And they will talk about like how like they prepare for roles and stuff, mostly acting type stuff. But one thing that McClure said is that her and Gilgun had gone out in character to a travel agent to try and book a holiday.
Okay.
But like it didn't work. That like they couldn't book the holiday for whatever reason. They ended up going to the pub and getting pissed. And they came back and they were like, oh, Shane's going to be annoyed with us or whatever. But apparently like he was like, no, that's what your characters probably would have done.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's just, it seems like Meadows creates this kind of environment for these people to just kind of thrive and explore their characters as much as possible. And then cameras roll. But he does have a script because people at studios want to see the script and things like that. But rarely sort of turns out the same as it is on paper, if at all, probably. But I think this is the second Shane Meadows movie I think I've seen.
The second. The first one being
Dead Man's Shoes.
Oh, of course. What a film.
I remember really liking it, but I don't remember that much about it. I think I saw it maybe a couple of years after it came out, so a while ago and only once. Definitely worth a rewatch, I think.
Yeah, maybe we can fit that into a revenge theme somewhere down the line.
Okay, revenge.
So you've not seen any of his other work then?
I don't think I have, no.
Okay.
There's a film that Andrew Shim was in called A Room for Romeo Brass.
Yes, that's on my shelf.
Oh, you have it?
I do.
I wish we'd had time to watch it.
Sorry.
Should we go and watch it now and come back later?
No.
Okay.
We're committed. Right. Yeah, because I bought that off the back of This Is England, I'm pretty sure, because you know me. I watch a film, I like it, and then I try to consume everything else that's even tangentially related to it. I remember it being pretty good, though.
I'd be interested in giving it a go.
Yeah, okay. And of course, This Is England was so successful that it spawned 3 different miniseries.
Is it 3?
Well, yeah, because the movie takes place in 83, I want to say.
Yeah, yep.
And then the miniseries are 86, 88, and 90.
Right.
And they were just like a couple of years apart, I believe. I don't remember getting as much out of them as the film, but during my research, people seem to speak really highly of them, so I was considering revisiting them at some point.
We watched the movie a few nights ago. Well, I did watch the first episode of 86, and I sort of, it was nice to see the characters again, but I felt like it didn't have the same kind of arc that the movie has, and the narrative and the background. I only watched one episode, to be fair, but now I've spent more time listening to all of the actors and stuff. I don't know, I probably am more open now to watching the rest of them. I just worry that it's going to be more just character stuff and not, I guess, the social, because I do really like the social commentary of this movie and the time period and the exploration of what was going on and how that mirrors the internal journeys of the characters as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the stuff I like the most about the movie, and I I worry that the shows don't have the same depth or richness, and that's probably really unfair. Like, I haven't seen it, so I can't really judge it, but I'm worried about sinking all of those hours into a thing and not having as good of an experience as I did with a movie.
Oh, personally speaking, this is just my opinion. I prefer the movie, but from what I remember, the miniseries do have like an overarching sort of plot, and they do deal with some pretty kind of intense stuff, much like the film does. But it does, I guess it does hinge on you wanting to spend more time with those characters, which I did.
I'd be more open to it now.
I don't know. I think one of the things that draws me to this film is the subculture that it explores. Less so the second half, but we'll get into that. But I grew up with people just like them, particularly sort of Woody and Lol. Definitely. Like, I wouldn't say I knocked about with a big punk crowd or anything, but I certainly was in the scene in my late teens and early 20s. Went to every available gig in Manchester and Star and Garter. I miss it. Punk's Christmas Bash. Yeah, so I think that's what originally drew me to this was kind of the subculture that you seldom see represented. But of course, that does become complicated as the story plays out.
Because of the association with Combo, or specifically his actions in the movie that take it down a darker path. Now, I don't know anything about skinheads or the culture.
I love the fact that you say skinheads.
Okay.
Before we put this film on, you hadn't really heard of the skinhead movement, had you?
Not really. I mean, I was aware that some people had like Doc Martens on and
boots and braces,
didn't have hair and had like bomber jackets on and stuff.
Harringtons.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. But I don't know. I just thought it's you're just wearing some clothes. I didn't really think much beyond that, really.
Okay.
They're keeping you warm, aren't they? Those rolled up jeans. I suppose that like I was sort of aware culturally of the association with
racism.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because I dated a guy who was effectively a skinhead that hung around with other skinheads, and people often were very apprehensive of him. Like the nicest bloke from Yorkshire, really affable, but people assumed that he was a racist.
Yeah.
And that couldn't have been further from the truth. So it's really sad that, I don't know, the rest of them get tarred with the same brush.
It's taking something, I guess, that starts out as perfectly innocent and gets hijacked by
neo-Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you know much about that and the musical element outside of that?
No, not really. No.
Okay. So basically this film takes place in 1983.
I was not born yet.
I was.
It's one of the few movies we can review and I go, I was not born yet. But you was.
Yeah, just. But yeah, so the first half kind of centers on this group of people who are really into the two-tone movement. Now, two-tone was named as such after Two Tone Records, which was started by one of the Specials in the late 70s, I want to say, kind of as a response to Thatcherism and all of the racial divides that were happening in the country. And a lot of the two-tone bands of the time had both black and white and biracial members. And it was their sort of pushback against some of the racism that was brewing in the country.
Trying to sort of create some more unity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Togetherness.
And that's why I think it's so perfectly used in this film.
Yeah.
A little bit heavy-handed, you might say, but I think it works perfectly. And the first half, I think, is soundtracked by Two Tone. You know, very much informed by reggae and ska, what have you. I'm a big fan of it. I know you're not. But I really love the songs that they chose in the first half because they're really like buoyant and joyful. And it's not until the second half where Combo appears that it switches gear to this really haunting Ludovico Einaudi score, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But definitely used brilliantly to sort of signal that change. But yeah, so within the two-tone movement, there were skinheads. Off the back of that, because so many of the skinheads veered far right in their thinking and ideology, that sort of led to a spin-off called Sharp, which is skinhead against racial prejudice.
Okay.
So they refer to themselves as sharps rather than skinheads, as a way to differentiate themselves.
There's too many pronouns now, Sarah.
It's fascinating.
No,
it's
it is
fascinating. But I believe that Shane Meadows wrote this as it was basically semi-autobiographical from what I gather. And I think Sean is kind of a stand-in for him as a boy.
Sean equals Shane.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's very cleverly hidden.
yeah.
And also knowing that he knew Paddy Considine from college, was it?
Yeah, I believe they went to college. They sort of bonded because they were like, I'm not sure about all this acting lark, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to do things our own way. But I love that.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But again, sort of that DIY ethic is very punk.
Yeah.
And they were in a band together. I know Paddy Considine's kid is in a punk band. So I imagine all of that stuff was taken from his own life.
Yeah.
I'm making assumptions, but you know.
No, I think you're right.
I'm trying to connect the dots, and that's what it seems like to me.
He definitely said that he had a gadget. He definitely said that he had a Woody. So definitely at least the characters, and I suppose that kind of you grow up in that environment in the 70s and the 80s with all of the nationalism and stuff. You see that journey. Yeah, it's going to influence what you're making, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely love that.
So is this kind of accurate then in the kind of the mid 80s where the National Front are trying to recruit people? Because you've got that meeting where you've got Frank Harper as Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
And he's doing a little speech in a pub about you can't say the word England anymore.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, this is dated so much. You don't hear any of this sort of rhetoric anymore.
I think that's the most depressing part about this, isn't it? It's so maybe more relevant now.
I would say so.
They're just getting better at hiding.
I think so. I obviously this is about the 80s when it was made. Was probably they were probably thinking like we still need to be having this conversation. It's still relevant today. But I think you're right. I think now it's more relevant than it was in 2006. It's quite sad.
It's depressing if you sort of think about when it's set. Films made 20 years later. 20 years on from that, we're still having the same conversations.
You're sort of. It does sort of feel like you're going backwards. I don't think we are. I think that ultimately we're trending better.
I don't know.
But we're going to have some bumps. It's not a linear thing. You have to be positive.
Well, I'm trying. I do want to be positive, but then you have incidents like obviously we're not a political podcast. We're not here to discuss current events or anything. But,
yeah, don't fucking listen to what we're saying.
But there was that incident over summer where somebody put out false information about I think it was a Muslim man having committed a crime. It wasn't him. Or the perpetrator wasn't Muslim. I can't remember. I think he was Christian. But that was enough for English louts to start tearing down mosques and looting and rioting and destroying high streets.
And that's scary that that's still happening right now.
It's terrifying.
And you can't help but wonder that these things sort of increase because of a kind of like a temperature that certain people are kind of turning up with rhetoric and things like that. Like a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about our favourite scenes and stuff later, and I'll talk more about it then, but that when Graham's giving that speech and, and he spits on the floor and he creates that line, it's gross.
Yeah.
But he has that speech about, but England's great and we need to keep our jobs for our people and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so you're talking about immigration, unemployment. Yeah, that's still the sort of stuff that they're pushing now. And it's not like go out and attack brown people. But it is putting people in yeah, it's kind of allowing that behaviour in the rhetoric, isn't it?
It's fostering that hate.
And it's gross because it's so insidious. And they'll go, we're not racist. we're not racist.
Well, it reminds me of when the riots were happening, there was a clip online of a bloke on the high street being interviewed, and he was just saying, "Oh yeah, can't get a job because of all these immigrants, can't get a job," and the interviewer was just like, "Okay, do you think it is the immigrants?" And then it came to light he'd been in prison for paedophilia, I believe,
right?
And it's just like you think that's why you can't get a job, you half-wit? But that's it really reminded me of this film. Like, Stephen Graham's character is fresh out of prison, whinging about what he's not got through his own choices, not because anybody else is in this country in his place. But like you say, anyway, let's go back to the beginning. First thing we see is Roland Rat.
Yeah. Was that Basil the Rat or Basil Brush? I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
I think Basil Brush was he a fox?
Sure. It was a glove animal of some kind.
Yeah, you're not a fan of puppets, are you?
I don't make it sound weird. Like, I'm fine with puppets, you know?
Well, I'm a Jim Henson girl, so I'm probably way more into puppets than the average person.
All right, you've got a puppet fetish, and I am kind of indifferent, but I don't hate puppets, all right? I don't want you going out there going, Dan hates fucking puppets. He can't tolerate puppets. What a right-wing fuckface he is.
You puppet bigot.
Puppetry. I don't know. They're fine. Puppets are fine.
But I love that opening, and you get this sort of hyper 80s montage of everything that was going on at the time. Is
it the Falklands? There's loads of footage with that. And it bookends with that because it kind of ends with that footage as well.
It does, yeah. But I think it's such a good way of opening it with that montage, because it clues you into, it puts you exactly in the frame of mind of what these characters were living through. I mean, not that things are too dissimilar now, you know, we're still being talked into completely unnecessary wars. Aren't all wars.
Communists. You communists.
All wars are bad. There, I said it. How controversial of me.
So controversial, Sarah.
What a hot take. But yeah, it was a really tumultuous time. There was so much political unrest, social unrest. There were the strikes, all the union stuff. Like, it was a shitty time to be living through, and it was really uncertain. And it's sort of pretty easy to put yourself in that frame of mind. I think easier now than in 2006.
Yeah,
I would say.
I definitely would agree with that.
But I do love that opening. I think it works really well as just a device to get you in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, it definitely worked on me, that opening. I immediately was like, oh, okay, I know what we're doing here.
Okay.
We're setting it. Maybe I didn't know exactly what journey the characters were going to go on or exactly what was going to happen, but it put me firmly in that 80s period and a decade in which I grew up. So it's, I suppose we've got that advantage as well, being English, and we know a lot of this stuff because it just happened on our tiny little island when we were the best. You know, we were the best. We'd just go and be like, see that land?
That's ours now. We licked it.
We nicked it ages ago. Therefore, it's ours.
It is literally, English people just went around the world going, licked it, it's mine now. It's honestly, and they've got the gall to be like, that you're stealing from us. No, give everybody else's shit back first.
Just give it all back. I don't give a fuck what artifacts you've got in the basement of the museum. Just give it back to whoever you stole it from. Who cares? Like, what are you doing with it?
Apparently Finders Keepers works as an adult. Who knew?
I didn't know that was based on actual law. Whenever
the Finders Keepers law,
yeah, when we were kids, and you know, someone would go Finders Keepers, and you go, Miss.
No, because I wasn't a grass.
You wasn't a grass.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I used to knock on myself.
I know. You told me the story.
I used to feel guilty and confess to everything.
You told me the story about the toilet.
Don't make it sound weird. I threw gravel down a toilet. That's weirder. I should have just left it at that, shouldn't I?
One of those northern phrases? What does it really mean?
No, I just put a handful of gravel down the toilet. I was 6. I wanted to see what would happen.
And what happened?
It didn't flush.
Did you get a detention?
No.
Did you get a cane?
No. How old do you think I am? Well, there wasn't corporal punishment when I was that age, was there?
But the kids in this movie get the cane.
They do, yeah.
So I was going to ask you about that as well, because that feels like when we were growing up, that was like, oh, that happened fucking ages ago.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. But 83, it's happening, and like 5 years later, I'm going to school. That feels weird that we didn't have to experience that, but yet we're so much closer to it than I thought.
It feels weird that we didn't have to experience that.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy we didn't have to experience that.
I know I'm happy, but like it feels weird how close we were to experiencing it, I guess, is the better way of phrasing it.
Well, I'm glad personally because it looked dreadful.
Yeah, it doesn't look too much fun to me either.
No. But again, good way of setting the scene. And a good way of sort of showing you that Sean is not only antagonized by his peers, but also by the people in charge as well. He's just a little toe rag to them.
Yeah. He's sort of having a bit of a rough time, isn't he, at the start of the film?
He is.
Like he's
just lost his dad.
He's just lost his dad. He's getting bullied. His mum has got the hugest perm you've ever seen.
I quite liked his flares.
Watching.
I'll say that.
Yeah. All right. You'd have been his mate. You'd be
I would.
Oh, yeah, Sean, I love your fucking trousers.
Don't listen to Harvey.
Yeah. But yeah, he's having a bit of a rough time getting bullied, and one of the people that gives him a bit of grief at the start of the film, is it Michael Socker?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Lauren Socker's brother.
Ah, right.
You can tell that because they've got the same face.
Oh, I thought he was going to say surname.
No, they look identical to me. I always found it weird that Harvey was just like the shitty suited and booted bully at the start, but he's hanging around with them in the miniseries.
Yeah, I found that a bit
contrived.
Yeah, is that the word?
Just like a weird way to bring. Why would you bring that character back?
Yeah, it didn't really feel like a continuation too much from the first episode. More just like more stories in this world, and yeah, even some of the other characters, like they sort of seem to forget their reactions in this film. I felt like, and that specifically, is it Banjo and Meg?
Meggie is Perry Benson.
Yeah.
Banjo's the big guy that Combo was in prison with.
Yeah. They sort of seem to change their characters a little bit.
I do really enjoy the first half of this movie. I think enjoy is a more appropriate word. The second half I endure and appreciate.
Yeah.
But the first half plays out like a way more traditional coming of age movie.
Yeah, I like you say, it is way more joyful, the first half. And he sort of Sean goes in that underpass, walks through that underpass and meets Woody and the other people. And it's the first time that he sort of has a sense of being accepted. And it's his journey, you know, they cut his hair off and he gets to kiss a young woman who's
inappropriately old for him.
Yeah. I think there was 3 years age gap between those two. And it did look weird because they were so different.
She was twice his height.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love there's like subtle foreshadowing if you know anything about the scene, because the part where they're sitting in the underpass and Woody's like, "Come on, lad, sit down with us." There's some graffiti above the tunnel that says Screwdriver, and Screwdriver were, I don't know if they're still in existence, but a really sort of notorious racist punk band. So stuff like that, it's like always lingering around them. But I quite like that in terms of foreshadowing.
I quite like the location of it, because it just that's an English underpass.
Yeah, it was bus stops for me and my friends.
Right, yeah. But like a million times as a kid, just walking through these underpasses and these sort of estates and stuff. So yeah, it's just sort of put me in that world a bit. I did like that scene as well, because you sort of get introduced to all of the characters, and Gilgun, he's doing his Gilgun thing where he's just fucking funny and
charismatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you get to see a very, very young, what's his name? O'Connell. Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell.
Yeah. Who's not in it very much.
No.
Gadget, I think, is probably my favourite introduction in that scene. And I think, I don't know, obviously, you've said there was a script.
Well,
I've said I think there was probably some improvisation there, but
I don't know. I think there probably. I don't know if there was a script definitely for the film. I know for the TV shows there would have been.
Yeah, for sure. But whatever it was, whatever sort of kismet happened, I think some of the nuances make so much sense in even like minor character progressions. And Gadget is one of my favourites because he's a real shitbag to Sean during that first scene. Because I think he's sort of, I don't know whether it's true or whether he just sees himself as like lowest man on the pecking order. And so he sees Sean and maybe thinks, oh, this is my chance to climb the ranks a little bit. I'm going to pick on this little kid. But then is put upon again. And that makes so much sense. The way he's treated, the way he talks, the way he's clearly dissatisfied makes so much more sense as to why he would join Combo later on. Yeah. Just little things like that.
And I think that is his kind of reaction to Sean joining a group at the beginning of the movie as well, is like he's jealous. He's like, oh, that kid's now coming in and taking my spot. He literally says that. And that's kind of what Combo is as well. Like, he's seen with Milky at the end. Like, ultimately he's jealous and someone else has something that he feels he's entitled to and doesn't have. And I feel like that's definitely a through line with some of these characters. And like you say, yeah, he tends to be goes with Combo when they have that line that groz on the kitchen floor scene.
The line in the sand. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's insidious is a word you've used a couple times, and I think that's the best word for it. In terms of like the overarching plot in this movie, it's so well done. It's so like drip fed, but brilliantly so, and really mirrors real life. And not that I think we're expected to sympathize with racists, because I don't sympathize with racists ever. That's a choice you've made, but you can see why and how they end up there. And you can see it now, like basically people who don't have the capability for critical thought are just lied to by the Daily Mail or whatever other far-right rag, instead of sort of directing their ire where it should be, at the systems that keep them down. They're told that it's the fault of these people who weren't born here and just divide and conquer. And it's so obvious. But I don't know, it maybe wasn't until I saw this film for the first time that I realised, oh yeah, I can absolutely actually see how normal people would maybe end up going down that road. If you've got nothing and you're told that somebody else who you don't think is deserving has everything that you want for, you know, nothing. They've been given it on a silver platter, which is obviously bollocks, but that's the lie that they're fed. Then it breeds hate. In idiots, I should clarify.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to question whatever media you're consuming.
Yeah, of course.
At all times.
Question everything.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of all you need to do. That rhetoric, it really does breed that kind of hate, or that license to be able to do things in the name of maybe something else, or like call it nationalism. Like we're just proud of our country. Yeah, but like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
we loved it when we used to steal shit. We loved it when we would just turn up on a fucking island somewhere and go, that's ours now. And we don't care because we're English.
Oh, hey, this is India. You're part of the Commonwealth now. Give us all your tea.
Yeah. Wasn't it great? Wasn't it? Shouldn't we have been more proud of ourselves back then? It's dumb.
It's very dumb. I've never really understood patriotism because I'm English through an accident of birth. I live on this little island that rains all the time.
I thought you were a planned pregnancy.
You know what I mean?
I'm the accident.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes no, like, where you're born is completely irrelevant.
I'm not proud that I'm English. I am English. I'm not going to deny it, but I'm not proud of that fact. Why would I be?
It's nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's nonsense. I can't really entertain patriotism. I don't have any time for it.
It's flag waving bollocks.
Yeah. But even the people that, like, and I'm not saying everyone that's a patriot is a racist, but
No.
it is something that racists can sometimes hide behind.
Yeah.
We're losing our culture or whatever.
What culture?
What culture do you have?
The only reason we have culture is because of immigrants.
Yeah.
Our national dish is Indian.
Yeah. Just accept change. Also, just accept change.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't have to be scary or bad.
Change, and that can be good or it can be bad. But, like, things change regardless. So you just have to make the best of whatever situation you find.
Yeah. And I'm saying this as a neurodivergent person. I hate change.
I know you do.
But sometimes you have to embrace it.
But human beings, man, we're all just humans and we've all got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
But they're not speaking our language. Anyway, I'm going to go off on a tirade if we don't get back to the film.
Yeah.
So I'm going to nip that in the bud there.
I think we were going to inevitably have that sort of discussion anyway.
I think we have to.
That's what this film's about. And
yeah.
One of the things I love about it is the way that it mirrors a nation's view and, like, really personalizes it. And you're not sympathizing. I mean, I'm not going combo. What a lad.
Yeah.
Like, I really would love to have share a pack of biscuits with him.
He just needs a cuddle.
Yeah. I'm thinking, oh God, I would hate to be around that guy. But also, I've probably known people that have the capacity to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. I've known a combo or two.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's important to not just go evil and whatever and try and distance yourself from it. I think you have to go, why is he like this? What's happened? How has the system failed him, and what's happened in his life, and how can we not make the same mistakes to make it more likely that people are not going to be racist fucks when they grow up? How can we create those scenarios? But so I don't think you're not really going, he's a good guy, is he? But you're just like, you do sympathise with him. You are like, he's had a shit life, and he's turned into a shit person because of it.
Yeah, I think it's tough, isn't it? Because, like we keep saying, he's not somebody to sympathise with, but to some degree, the people you're surrounded by, the place you're born, the politics of the time, all of that stuff does help shape you, especially when you're young. So I do like that it sort of goes some way to helping you understand rather than, not empathizing.
Yeah.
But speaking of combo, I think I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite scenes in this movie, which is a scene between Combo and Lol in the car. She's on her way to work. He stops her because he wants to talk to her. And in his mind, he's fresh out of prison. He had this tryst with Lol before he went away. Do we know what for?
No, I don't think it's specific, but I assume some kind of theft or something, because it seems like Woody's involved. So
right.
I can't imagine Woody being involved in an assault or anything like that.
That's a good point.
So I gather it's a more you can't really say well-meaning crime. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
A less severe crime, should say.
Yeah.
Maybe just having a bit of weed or whatever. Maybe it was just as simple as that.
Could be. But yeah, I love that moment where he's really sincere and tries to kind of give her this box that he's made in prison with her name on it. And to him, it's like a really romantic gesture, whereas to her, that he had sex with her when she was 16. Legal? Yes. A child? Also yes, in my opinion. And she sort of, the way she rebuffs him is her recognizing how much of a power imbalance there was when she was only 16, and that he might have romanticized this, but to her it was anything but. And she's so stony and cold and brilliantly acted.
McClure's great in this.
She is.
And I don't know. I haven't seen Line of Duty or anything like that, But that's another one, like, I'm kind of curious now to go and have a go, because I'm a bit resistant to cop dramas as well. But
my mum loves that show.
I mean, it's one of those that everyone's like, it's fucking great. So
Yeah.
maybe we should give it. Maybe we should try and binge it at Christmas or something.
We'll finish Lost and then see where we are, yeah?
Yeah. Don't get on that plane, Boone.
But yeah, just the way the camera's sort of right there in the car with them, and it's switching back between Combo and Lol. And every time it switches, it closes in a little bit and it becomes so claustrophobic and unbearable. And because Combo's so unpredictable, it becomes really tense. And I just think it's so well done. But then Lol exits the car and Combo just breaks down, and we get this really raw moment of emotion from a character who hasn't shown any. And it's really disarming, disconcerting.
He is an unpredictable character, and in that moment, he's kind of probably been building up to that moment for 3 years while he was inside, romanticizing it. Wasn't it great then? As you said, probably was more likely at least someone taking advantage of somebody that was young and intoxicated. And he's been kind of building up to that, and he's really upset. But that very quickly turns into anger, and he's punching things, and that's everything you need to know about the character. Yeah.
But the raw emotion on his face, Stephen Graham plays that scene so well. It gives me goosebumps.
He's also great.
He's a powerhouse in this film.
I think everyone is great. And you can only sort of really put that down to, I guess, obviously, people, they are really good at their jobs and they're showing these emotions brilliantly. But also Meadows is just creating this safe space for everyone to just blossom.
Yeah, absolutely. Like his guidance is a huge part of it. Yeah.
And just before that, like before they get in the car as well, he's kind of collared her on her way to work, and she's trying to just get to work. She's like, I'm running late, and he says, well, I'll come back later. And she's obviously thinking, well, fucking, I don't want you coming back later. All right, let's get this over with now. And she probably sort of knew what was coming in a way, because he was weird with her when they first met up again in the house after our mate runs in with a machete, and I was like, what the fuck's going on?
You and everybody else in that scene.
Yeah, he was a bit weird with her then as well, and you kind of feel like there was something coming, but I didn't expect it to be what it was. I just thought, it's going to be a love triangle situation now. Maybe he fancies her now. I didn't realise that there was also a past there. That's
what I love about this film, though. The characters are so richly devised. I feel like, as you said, Vicky McClure and Joe Gilgun going out in character, I think that sort of stuff, knowing that, it makes absolute sense.
And also fun. Should we try and do it one day? Just make up some characters and pretend to go. Do travel agents still exist?
We could try an estate agent.
Let's go to an estate agent in characters that we create.
Okay.
And pretend we're going to buy like £1 million house or something.
I don't think anybody's going to believe I've got £1 million to spare.
Yeah.
But sure, I'm up for it.
And if not, we'll just get pissed down the pub.
Yeah. That's going to be what happens. But yeah, I think, is it the second scene where they've, after Combo and Sean and Banjo and whatnot have terrorized the shopkeeper using the P slur, when the man is probably not even from Pakistan, scrawling their illegible, poorly spelt graffiti outside the shop, and they kind of gate crash Smel's party.
Yeah,
awkward scene. But my favourite bit of dialogue, I have to say, when Woody's going on about he has to leave because he wants to watch a documentary about aardvarks. That was my absolute favourite bit of dialogue. And I feel like that had to be ad-libbed.
That was just Gilgun he's just genuine in a scene.
Yeah.
They were like, take 38 or whatever. He's like, come on, I've got to go now.
He's a man after my own heart. What can I say? Yeah. I would also leave a party to go and watch a documentary about aardvarks.
Sarah, but they had a stolen Victoria sponge on a newspaper. How could you turn that down?
So enticing.
Yeah. Just all this stolen shit, a giant can of kidney beans or whatever Maggie's fucking holding.
God knows. And I think a bottle of Advocar.
Yeah. Advocar. Yeah. Probably the first booze I ever had, that Advocar.
Well, yeah, it was It was quite a big thing in the 80s and 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, yellow. Yellow was.
Yeah.
Yellow acrylic baths. They were big.
Oof.
Do you remember them? Fucking gross. Wasn't it great? No. You had yellow acrylic baths.
Everybody gets so heated about 80s nostalgia. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
You weren't there.
I was there.
No, not you. You were there. I know you were there.
I was there. I wore the shell suits. I do not wish to go back.
I had a shell suit too. The worst thing about it is that I actively requested a shell suit as a birthday present.
Me too. Mine was blue.
Blue?
Yeah, with white and pink.
Wow.
There's a photo of me.
Bold.
Yeah. Mm.
That is bold.
Mm-hmm.
You must dig that out for the patrons.
Okay.
I think one of the scenes I think I've probably been thinking about the most in this, there were a few, like I said, I really liked the underpass scene because it's just a nice scene where a kid's being accepted into a community. Yeah, he's getting a bit of grief with Gadget or whatever, and that happens a bit more as well after they go and destroy that house, which is a fun scene too. And looks so much fun. I'd love to do that.
I think that's, so just let me pause a second.
Right.
I think that's a really nice parallel as well, because you see them sort of literally dressing up like children to just piss around, and they take their frustrations at the world out on this abandoned house. And it's not great. It's still criminal, but, you know, it's a much healthier outlet. Whereas in the second half, when things get dark and they're taking their frustrations at the world out on actual humans. And I thought that was a really nice sort of contrast between the first and the second half.
Yeah. A super fun day shoot. Like, oh,
yeah,
I'd love to be on set that day. But, the house was going to be knocked down anyway, so they were allowed free reign of it. Yeah, one of the scenes that I was sort of thinking about quite a bit was in the house where Combo is sort of laying out his intentions, and he says, you come with me or you go with Woody. Or like he does this big speech about we need to protect our country and the brown people are taking our jobs and we need to teach them a lesson, and all of that fucking nonsense that he's heard from the National Front podcasts or whatever was about in the 80s. Not podcast, it would have been speeches in the pub like it is in a movie, right? It would have been little things like that. And he's laying out how he sees these things, and he's like, who's with me and who's against me, and like he does Grosline, as we said. And I really like that scene. It kind of encapsulates the question and the choice on the viewer. You're presented with all of this. What are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to listen to the nonsense that people are pushing and trying to spread hate? Or are you going to say fuck off and just go your own way? And Woody obviously goes, and that's good. And a little bit of redemption probably on his part from earlier, where he wasn't really sticking up for Milky, where Combo was being racist and telling that story about when he was in prison.
I do love that dialogue, though. The fact that Combo somehow manipulates the facts to make Woody the villain in that scenario.
Yeah.
It's so manipulative.
It is really manipulative. And a few of the characters, like, I'm surprised about who goes with Woody and who stays with Combo. Gadget stays with Combo, and you think, oh, there's probably a bit of that resentment that he had in Sean. Maybe he plays a part in that role earlier. Like, maybe he's a bit jealous that he's not Woody's favourite anymore. Or, I don't know, something like that. Milky has a moment where he's considering what to do, right? It feels like he's not entirely sure, and I wonder what that was. Is it because Woody didn't stick up for him earlier on, and he's like, who's my mate here more, and he's sort of questioning that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think quite a few of them seem to have, there's a handful that are very much in the yes camp, a bunch that are in the no camp, but there's a couple that are on the fence almost. And I don't know, as somebody who spent a lot of their childhood being ostracized from their peers and never feeling like they fit in, what I will say is that anything that even closely resembles acceptance can be very seductive, no matter what form it takes. So again, I'm not sympathizing with the people that side with Combo, but I can understand how they got there. Yeah.
And I think the best example of that is obviously Sean, because he is the child in this situation, and he's lost his dad for a start. He is lacking a male influence, guidance figure, I guess, in his life. And he's looking to Combo and thinking, he seems strong and like he wants to look out for me and quite likes me. Because when he lashes out at Combo for talking about the Falklands and how it's an unjust war and stuff, Sean loses it, and Combo seems to respect that. And
he responds with pride.
He sort of sees himself in Sean, and there's that kind of bonding kind of there. But I also like Sean is Combo is sort of he's kind of manipulating Sean in that moment as well, because he's going, aren't you angry about your dad? And that's like one of those sales pitch questions when they ask you a question and you have to say yes to it. So it happened to me a few months ago. A bloke knocked on the door and goes, would you say that you take security in your house seriously?
No, forever leaving the door open.
Yeah. Fuck off. No, you're asking me a yes question so you can keep the conversation going. And it's one of those examples.
Yeah.
So he's kind of manipulating Sean in a way. But again, you can see his reasons for it. He maybe in his mind has got a twisted version of I'm going to be here for this kid.
Yeah.
And I like that scene because a lot of characters have a lot of decisions to make, and some of them I'm glad, like Woody and ultimately Milky, who go and go off with him, and then Gadget stays. Is it Jack O'Connell's character? Is he called Pukey?
Pukey, yeah.
I wonder why he's called Pukey. I'd love to know the reason for that.
I can think of one reason.
I can think of a reason. He stays with Gadget and Combo, and I'm not surprised by that, but I am surprised that later he seems to reject what they're actually doing when he sees the realities, when they go to that speech where Nigel Farage is talking in that pub.
Yeah.
He's the one that's like, because everyone in the crowd is going, yeah, it's our country, and they're really behind what this guy's saying. But he's the one that's like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I'm really surprised by that, but like really happy and glad that he's rejecting it in that moment.
I like that they had a character that sort of had second thoughts and walked away.
Yeah, and who would have thought it would be Cook?
Little Skins reference there for the uninitiated. Yeah, I think it's interesting as well because Sean is 12, he's lost his dad, he's lacking that father figure. He's basically groomed by Combo. And I don't think that's talked about enough. Like, grooming comes in many forms. It's not just a sexual thing.
Yeah, it's indoctrination, isn't it? As
well,
well,
fashion,
It's putting your beliefs upon someone, but also like giving them a contextual reason and something that they can look to and go, oh yeah, these two things are linked, but not really.
But I mean, it's the same thing with religion. Like, get them while they're young.
Yeah.
And impressionable.
And cults.
Yeah. I already said religion.
Yeah. Oh, that's controversial. All of the Christians will be switching off.
I grew up in the church. I'm allowed to say that, okay? I escaped. I think the notion that the film is a film of two halves is really interesting as well, because there's such a clear demarcation line.
In Groz.
On the floor. And we've already talked about it. It's kind of denoted by the music that's used, the soundtrack. It's such a beautiful piece of music. Have you been listening to it by any chance? Is this it now? Okay, cool.
I haven't, because I haven't wanted to, because the music is so sad. Like,
but it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it really works in the film, and it makes you feel a certain way, and it works perfectly. I haven't wanted to listen to it. It's just literally stuck with me. When we watched the film, it was very effective, and I watched the commentary again today, so I did get to hear it again.
Okay.
But it's just been playing on loop in my brain.
Do you know what's been playing in my head on a loop this past week?
Oop, there it is.
No, because of you. The cheese tax. The cheese tax.
Yeah, I showed you a TikTok video. Isn't that novel?
Yeah, it happens occasionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is such a clear demarcation line in Groz, as you said, between the first and the second half of the film. And I think I mistakenly said earlier that it's when Combo enters the frame, but actually I think it's when Woody leaves. The more I think about it, because the second half is sort of lacking heart, I guess, and it sort of suffers. Well, the film doesn't suffer. the characters and the audience, we as the viewer, suffer.
You're not having a good time.
From a lack of Woody and Lol.
Yeah, like the first half, you're kind of enjoying the interactions between these characters, acceptance, mates. Yeah, there's a bit of resistance or whatever, but like it's just humans and people having fun and sitting around 35 people in a living room with stuffed animals and fish tanks and a pint of tea.
Brilliant.
So it's so 80s, and then it's a grim fest. The second half is bleak, but that transition, but that sort of contrast between the two is what makes it work so well. And that's a really good point, because there is this kind of transition period where Combo comes into it, and then Woody's still hanging around, but it's not till the point where Woody says, "No, I don't want to be a part of this," and removes himself from it. That's when it's like you're missing those characters and you're missing that levity. But I totally by design. And
it works brilliantly, but the audience does suffer.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely by design, and it works. It pays off. Obviously, we're going to have to talk about the end. I don't really want to because it's so unpleasant, but we have to.
Yeah. Well, you mean where Combo seeks out Milky and he wants to buy some weed from him?
Yeah.
So I'd love Milky at first, like, "No, I can't help you get any weed," and Combo goes, I'll give you half of it. It's like, well, maybe I do know.
So my question to you is,
yeah,
obviously the way that plays out leads to a climax of really intense racially motivated violence, and it's horrific, and you barely see it. I mean, a lot of it is kind of implied. You see the aftermath. You don't really see a lot of what's happening. Do you think Combo's intention was to do that all along? What do you think his motivations were? Why did he invite Milky back?
I was going to ask you that.
Okay.
I don't think that there's a clear answer. I don't know. You could look at it either way, really, because I think he's just had that interaction with Lowell where he's angry and he's probably looking to take it out on somebody. So maybe he is tricking Milky into a scenario where he can assault him. But then also he does seem like a complex character, and he does genuinely seem like he's connecting with Milky in that scene up to a point. And maybe that's why he becomes so angry, because he's like, "You had everything that I wanted, and I like you, man, and I fucking hate you for it."
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
I don't know. Like, I think you can read it either way, and that's one of the things that I think is really great about it. Well, do you think that he's intentionally trying to trick him back to his apartment so that he can do what he does, or is he just going from moment to moment, not really thinking about it?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I would say I think the character is sort of winging it, but I think that idea of really over nationalism, and let's call it what it is, racism, never leaves his mind. I don't think that ever for a second leaves his mind. So while I don't necessarily think he planned to injure Milky to that degree, I think something fishy was going on. Yeah, just the sheer fact that he invited him back. Why would he? You know? Yeah.
And it is a really difficult scene to watch. It's a really tense.
You know what it's building up to. I think that makes it really, really difficult.
Yeah, I don't know if I knew what was going to happen. I think I suspected, but it was really tense because you just see and there was a lot of close-ups on Graham again and Milky, where he's telling the stories about his family, and there's always a meal, there's always a meal cooking, and there's always people around, and you can see Graham close-up of him sort of becoming really resentful, biting his nails and becoming
kind of seething.
Really, starting to seethe.
Even while Milky's been positive and optimistic and even kind of extending an invite. Yeah. And he hates that, and he's really angry because he perceives that in a way that's been taken from him. Yeah, and almost like rubbed in his face. Yeah. And he obviously just ends up losing it. But it's that tension of that scene and then that happening, and you don't see an awful lot. You see arms swinging around, and I think it's a lot in Graham's performance in that scene. And then you see the aftermath of it, and you just sort of see Milky lying on the ground, and you're like, fuck, man. Like, I wasn't sure if he made it or not. I had the exact same thought the first time I ever watched this film. In fact, I think I assumed he died. I think I was probably on that side of it. Yeah. I thought he didn't seem like he was breathing. Graham,
I was thinking in that moment, like maybe Graham. I'll do this thing particularly with this cast. I get the cast names, the character names, and the actors' names mixed up constantly. But Combo, he seemed like he was really upset in that scene as well. So I was like, yeah, maybe he did intend to trick him back and beat him up, but maybe he didn't intend to kill him. I don't know, but his reaction said to me that maybe that Milky was dead. But I'm really happy that he wasn't.
Yeah,
because it was bleak anyway. It was bleak as fuck, and I'm glad that it didn't end on a death, this film. I think that would have been a bit much for me, personally. Yeah. Like, you need some hope in this.
It's interesting because we talked a little bit about this last week when we covered 13 as well. I think if he died... I mean, it's already sort of verging on moralistic hand-wringing, which sounds pejorative, and I don't necessarily mean it that way. But I think Milky sort of pulling through, or that line of dialogue that Sean's mom says about, oh, he's going to be okay, by virtue of that, it sort of saves it from being maybe preachy in its message. Like, we get it. Yeah. We already get it. And I think I know a few people really dislike that very ending.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, the very last shot
of Sean on the beach. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I read it. I read one review on Letterboxd that just said he yeeted racism into the sea.
In a way.
Which I get. I understand why some people would dislike that, because it is sort of quite a heavy-handed symbolism. But
that's symbolism that I understood.
But but I like it. It doesn't have to be subtle. It doesn't have to be subtext. That was him literally ditching that lifestyle. But
it also works, I say again, on a personal and a societal level, because it's the flag that he made for Combo.
I think he stole it, but yeah.
Yeah, probably robbed it, little fucker. It's the flag that he robbed for and gave to Combo. So he's, on a personal level, you know, I'd want to leave that behind me, but also the nationalism and hiding behind this flag and all of that stuff. So I think it's a really good ending.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I didn't much care for the Smiths cover. I'm guessing they couldn't afford Morrissey's royalty.
Well, that's just because nobody likes Morrissey anymore.
Yeah, Morrissey's a cunt. But the Smiths were good.
They had some bangers, yeah. I thought it was a really nice way. They said on a commentary that they used the 80s song, but a recent cover of it, because it was like a way to look back at the past, but, you know, use current.
Oh, yeah, look how far we've come.
Yeah, I guess so. Or more of the sense, like, you know, this is still a relevant conversation that we need to have.
Yeah.
But I love the way that he tosses that flag into the sea. And he'd visited the beach earlier in the movie on his own, where he's just sort of cycling. Remember when kids just used to cycle around and they didn't have the telephones?
Yeah.
The good old days.
Didn't have PlayStations.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was horrendous. Before PlayStation.
Before PlayStations and YouTube, what did we do?
Before 32-bit, pre-32-bit consoles.
Do you know what I did?
What?
Water bomb fights on the street.
Great.
Yeah.
We can still do that.
That's true.
Why
Nothing's
not?
stopping us.
Yeah. I really like the ending on the beach. It seems to be like it's a place where he goes for comfort or something. I don't know if his dad left on a boat and there's that in it. Maybe because there's you mentioned earlier about the bookend of the actual real world footage, and at the end there's the ship that returns to the UK. So there's that as well. Water is obviously quite a symbolic thing. And I like the way that he was in the boat, and he was in the boat earlier before he did his coming of age, if you like. Now he's all grown up and rejecting racism. And I think it's a great ending. And he sort of looks at the camera as if to say, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that really sort of took me back to Come and See. Like some urchin is staring into my soul right now, and I feel deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah. Would you kill baby Combo?
No.
Could you kill baby Combo?
Yes. I could take a baby.
You could take it.
We talked about this already.
Imagine Stephen
Not a
Graham.
fair fight.
Imagine Stephen Graham as a baby.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
I think he's a great actor. I think he could play the shit out of it. I just mean actually like a physical baby. I can't imagine him being a baby.
Yeah, I don't think he would look that dissimilar.
Yeah, or like in a Bruce Willis way.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that's a great ending. I think this is a really... It kind of stuck with me. That ending kind of stuck with me as well, and the whole film did. And it was quite nice to rewatch it with the commentary as well.
Okay. I must admit, I can't always call whether or not these first-time watches are going to go over well with you. And I was, much like last week, and the week before, in fact, I was sort of verging more towards you disliking it. So I'm really pleasantly surprised.
I think the context with which it's set is a huge part of why I like it, and how that sort of mirrors the internal things sort of going on with the characters. I think it's just really well done.
Yeah.
And it's an area that I'm very interested in as a cultural thing, and something that we've spoken about a lot recently, it feels like, with obviously stuff that's not going to go into stuff that's going on now, but we did a little bit with Come and See. The coming of age kind of vibe of it is interesting as well, because I thought about I was sort of struggling with comparisons a little bit with this one, because I do avoid a lot of British drama. So my reference points are probably limited, but I did think about Stand By Me, but only in a sense that the casting I felt maybe was done in a similar way. Like, I'm going to find the people that are actually already these characters, and you kind of buy the on-screen friendship and connection between the people involved.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it's the coming of age kind of thing of it as well, and everyone's kind of lost in their own head, but also has this group of people that they can rely on to a degree.
Yeah, it's not a comparison I would have come up with, but I can see that.
I was struggling for comparisons.
That kind of camaraderie is really difficult to fabricate.
I googled British drama, and
okay.
it was all haven't seen that.
Well, I imagine stuff like Mike Leigh and Ken Loach and stuff were big influences on Shane Meadows.
Yeah.
I would put his work into the same category as like Andrea Arnold, maybe. I'm trying to think who else is doing that sort of thing these days. There aren't many.
Is Ken Loach the Kes guy?
Yeah.
Kes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to watch that at school.
Yeah, me too.
Of course you did. You're Northern. It was on every day.
It's all we watched.
You could have watched it at church.
Yeah.
Kes. Look, the bird. The bird's dead now. Oh no. I'm going to cry.
I'm so pleased that you put off subjecting us to your Northern accent until the very end.
I know, love. I should have brought it out earlier, to be fair.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't.
Oh, it's so accurate, you see. I didn't want to... I can't do a Northern accent.
No, I don't. You're veering off. I don't know where that's supposed to be.
I think everyone's switched off already. I don't think it matters. I could say whatever I want now.
Don't. Just in case. But that's it. That's it for This Is England. I'm stoked you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Are we going to wrap it up, are we?
Yeah.
I'm happy that I enjoyed it. I'm not always sure which way I'm going to go either.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing the fact that you put it off made you think you probably wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, perhaps. Or at least I wanted to avoid feeling depressed, which is often my stimulus, because I do look to films for entertainment and escapism, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Which has been the real challenging thing for this season, I must say. Escapism.
So sorry.
Escapism. Dan, why don't you watch Come and See?
Hey, I saw on Reddit the other day, there was this guy who was like, oh, I heard this was one of the most challenging films ever made. It wasn't even that depraved. I'm just like, my guy, please just do us a favour and lock yourself in a basement somewhere and never leave.
Yeah, never read a newspaper.
Yeah.
Don't go online. You should have your social media licence revoked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stay in your mum's basement.
Check that man's hard drive immediately.
Yeah. Was it that Nick Fuentos guy?
Oh, God. Less said about him, the better, eh? So yeah, that's it. That's the end of episode 7 of 8 of Coming of Age. We've got one more to go, and you'll be so pleased. You'll be so pleased that I'm going to take it easy on you, and we're going to go a little bit lighter. I'm going to do Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous.
Oh, final episode.
Yeah, can't wait.
Nice.